Good morning, everyone. We need more energy, guys. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to Keller Williams. So happy to see you here. We would like to express our gratitude to our one and only, actually, Rhonda Pullman and Karen for organizing this awesome panel. And I would like to pass it to right now to Rhonda to introduce our guest.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rhonda with the Growth Panel, and I sincerely appreciate you all making the commute and the trip through all the traffic to be here today. We have an amazing group of local attorneys here that are going to share their expertise, answer questions. They are here local and available if any of you are in any situations that your clients might need legal counsel, just for a small fee, of course. And then we have Karen with Majestic Title. She's here. She has three locations, Katie Sugarland, actually Fulshire, and a satellite in the Galleria. Is that correct? Yes. And Tammy McCall with Johnson Development. So our very special guest. There is a pamphlet there in front of you that has all the communities that they have to offer. They do have a new community, which Tammy will tell you about. So thanks again for being here. It means a lot to me. Thanks.
It's okay. Hey, everybody. How are you doing? Good. Good morning. Did you all sign your legal disclaimers before you attended class? Just kidding. Any information provided today will not be considered legal advice or client engagement with any of the attorneys present. Just kidding. I just made that up. Y'all are supposed to laugh at that. That's like one of my best jokes. I have brought two of my really good friends here today. Thanks, Rhonda, Roger, and everybody here for having us. Because Rhonda is also one of my very good friends. Actually, about three very good friends here today. Two of them happen to be attorneys that I work with often to help get deals to the closing table, right? Because we work with some really problem files, and we work with the good ones too. I'm also an attorney. I just choose title as my path because I listen to these two talk about how they have to go to court, and I don't like to be at the beck and call of anybody's judge. So, but they do take care of a lot of situations for us and our clients, and we've closed deals that were considered impossible to close. Well, there's not impossible, right? So we make them happen. Robin Sal is here, as well as Carrie Graham. They both own their own law firms. So can we get a whoop whoop for lady ownership? Sorry, guys. But they both own their own law firms, and they focus on very different things, but we all work together. We like to consider ourselves kind of the trifecta of solving problems. And we love working together. I don't like attorneys. These two in the room are two of the exceptions to the rule. I love these two. So, Tammy is also a very dear friend, and we love her with Johnson Development because she collaborates with us to do great things like this and provide breakfast. So can we get a whoop whoop for Tammy for providing breakfast? And she is Johnson Development, right? They should just call it Tammy McCall Development. Is that on the record? Hi. Tammy, why don't you say a few things about Johnson?
Thank you. I have this mic here. So yeah, he's already mic'd me. So I thought might as well turn it on and use it and get used to it. Hi, everybody. Tammy McCall, like she said, Johnson Development. I'm your realtor relations extraordinaire. And yes, I gave myself that title. So come on. You guys are so funny. Are you awake yet? There's coffee. Okay, like Rhonda pointed out, this is our showcase brochure that I put on the table. So hopefully everybody got one. It is your best tool for Johnson Development. We will actually be updating this in June or July because we did add another community that's not in here, which is Grange, which is located right next to Cane Island out towards Fulshire. So we do have that, but you guys, this is a great tool. On the inside, here's Realtor University. That is this QR code right here. This is how you find out about events that we're doing. But let me just tell you, I'm going to Bali, Indonesia tomorrow, and there's not any events for a little bit. So, but usually there's a lot of events on there, and I will be, once I get back from vacation, I will add on a lot of other events that we have coming up. Karen and I work very closely together, so we love doing events together, but we love doing things that are going to empower you and bring you guys good value. So we hope you guys can join us for some of those events. One of those events coming up is this little guy here. This is Chance McCall. I have his little signs over here, and I have his little statue thing over there, his little cutout. He is kind of become the Johnson mascot. That was not intended. He's my COVID dog, so he went everywhere with me as soon as I got him. And now he has separation anxiety. But he goes everywhere, seriously. I didn't bring him today because I wasn't sure if you guys would be comfortable with him coming, because it's my first time to come to your office here. So I went to the old office a couple of times, but I didn't have a dog yet. So his birthday party is coming up, and that may not sound like a big deal, but he is known by like 95% of realtors across Houston. So they will come to his party on June 5th, and they will bring donations for Fort Bend Paws, because I do not want to take 100 or more gifts home for him. Okay. So we hope that you guys will come. It's if you go into that QR code right here, you guys can sign up for his birthday party and bring donations again for Fort Bend Paws. We do have something else going on. There's a little stand up there with his head that's sticking above. Can you hold that up for me? Could you just be Ivana for me? That is, we're doing a Fine Chance around Jordan Ranch, and they have put out 7 cutouts this big of him at Jordan Ranch. You come and you find those cutouts. And then if you find all 7, you just scan the QR codes that are on his little collar at each one, take pictures, follow the directions, and then you're eligible to win $5,000 that we will be drawing for at his birthday party.
How much?
$5,000. Anyway, so that's all. I'm not going to take up much more time. You guys aren't here to hear from me, but I hope you enjoyed breakfast. That's TJ's Catering. I use them a lot. They always do a great job. They're always on time. They always have a good setup. So you guys enjoy that. And just remember, I'm here for you. I do everything south of I-10. And my friend, Monica Conchola, she does everything north of I-10. So if there's anything we can do to help you, your clients are looking for something specific and you're not really sure, but you want this school district, etc., you can reach out to either one of us. Our contact information is in the very back inside, and it has our phone numbers and our emails, but I will not be answering for the next 10 days. Okay. That's all.
I forgot to tell you exactly what's happening, because you guys are used to seeing PowerPoint presentations, right? And especially from lawyers, like, oh gosh, it's so boring. We don't do things that way. Okay. How many guys, anybody else a lawyer in here? No? Okay. Sometimes we have lawyers. So we have to take an exam to be a lawyer, like you guys have to take an exam to be a realtor, right? And most of our days feel like we're taking that exam over and over and over again, right? So that's kind of what we're doing here today. Anything that might be applicable or questions that we've been asked from real estate agents or in the course of closing transactions, we have 65 questions on this random wheel. So it's almost like a game show. So we hit the spin, we don't know what's going to come up, and we give you the answers. The attorneys here we don't talk about specializations, but we do talk about things that we are very special to our clients in. And the attorneys here have 2 different areas that they focus in that I don't. And so that's why we make a great team, right? So Robin can introduce herself and tell you about that. Carrie can introduce herself and tell you about that. And Tammy is going to act as our Alex Trebek, right? I don't know who the new guy is from this show, but you know what I mean? So she's going to ask us the questions and then we all kind of chime in. Does that sound fun or what? Right? Okay. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. It's really fun when you're the one up here answering the questions too. All right. You want to come on up? Come on up. Don't be shy. You got your own microphone. We will probably stand most of the time because they don't let you sit in court really. Right? So most of us are used to standing. You want a gray mic?
No.
Oh, wait, they're recording it.
Oh, okay. Because one of the things they teach us to do is to project to
Yeah.
the back of the room. Good morning, everybody. My name is Robin Sowell. I am the managing partner of a law firm, Sowell, Walls and Powell. It's in Katy out on the west side. Our firm practices in a number of areas, which include real estate, contract law, corporate organizational work, family, anything business related that anybody might need. I've been practicing. You know what? I'm not going to tell you how long I've been practicing because then you'll be saying, how old is she? But a really long time. And we encounter all kinds of situations and we get calls from realtors all the time. I get calls from Karen. One of the things I want y'all to walk away from today, with today is don't ever take no and can't as your answer until you really look at it, because you will find that when people say no, title companies, for example, no, we can't do it. It just means no, they don't want to figure out how to do it. No, they don't want to find the square peg, because 99% of the time, right, Karen, there's a way to do it if you find the right way to do it to push things through. So that's one of the messages I wanted to send to y'all today, and it'll come up in some of the questions. Just because somebody says no, no doesn't mean no when you're trying to close the sale of property.
It
There
means
is
go to
prob-
someone else like Karen.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
Go ask somebody else. Go find
Watch-
somebody else.
Watch this. When was the last time one of you transferred a file from another title company to me?
In the last-
Thursday,
Yeah.
and she closed it on Monday.
Yeah, because I don't believe that there is a property that cannot be closed. People don't like the answers sometimes of what we have to do to get it insurable, because there's no such thing as a clear title, really. It's insurable title. And so that's a great point, because you have to remember that most people, it's a lot of work. And if you call and you're like, hey, I got this property, it's $125,000, right? Just like you guys, we're based on percentage. We don't get to charge extra because it's a pain, right? We don't get to charge extra because we spend extra hours on
We
it.
do. We
They
get to
do.
charge extra when it's hard.
Title companies don't. So sometimes people don't know, they don't have the expertise, or they don't know, and they don't want to hassle with it. Or I think the other thing is they don't have resources, right? They don't have friends, and the friends that they have that I might not have, they have. And so that's why we've been able to do some pretty incredible things for some pretty, desperate situations or families that needed to get their stuff taken care of. So anyway,
So I'm Carrie. I have my office is actually right next to Robin. So she called me one day and said, your new office just went for sale. And 2 weeks later, I had a building. I don't know how it happened. She just did it. They did it. Actually, they did it together. I just signed some stuff. That's pretty much it. Anyway, so I'm next to Robin. I think of myself kind of like the hazmat of the legal world. I do a lot of cleanup, and I do a lot of like interest to minors. What happens when people are, disabled or incapacitated, or they're divorcing? I deal with a lot of the messy side of title work. So I'll be talking about probate and guardianship today, which is a really fun area of practice for me.
and coincidentally, my Katie office is inside Robin's building. I mean, you keep your people close. Okay, I'm gonna. Y'all need a water? Okay, are y'all ready? Okay, so the way that you have to start Tammy off, because she's gonna spin the wheel, is you have to start clapping. Everybody start clapping. We don't have to do everything, just the first.
It's no spinning. We're done. Oh, so push that instead. Okay. All right. All right, here we go. How do you choose a good attorney?
All right, well, I'll talk about this one. I think one of the things I always tell folks, you don't know, right? It's like going to the doctor. Are they good? What do their peers think? So talk to other lawyers, because other lawyers generally know, who's got good reputations and who doesn't. But I also think having attorneys that litigate the transactions they do. So like I draft wills. I also do will contests. And so that you get better at your craft, your drafting craft, whenever you're fighting those battles, and your reputation is kind of on the line each time. So making sure your attorney is very active in their area is good. And if they're transactional, making sure they're plugged into people and organizations, and that they're not isolated, because isolation usually breeds less effective assistance.
Yeah. Referral. Oh, sorry. No. They're people watching the. Okay. Here. I'll trade you. I don't. Okay, so try and get a referral if you can. Even if you have a criminal law attorney, but you need a business transactional situation addressed, call your criminal law attorney and say, hey, I need a business transactional lawyer. We all know each other, and we can send you to someone else that can help you. And just so you know, certainly in my firm, We don't benefit from that in any way. I don't charge a referral fee just because you call me and I send you to someone else. I am genuinely sending you to someone who I think can take care of you. So call somebody you know, phone a friend. That's the best way to do it. Your Google reviews, maybe when you're going online to search for somebody, who knows, right? Because attorneys can solicit people to post reviews for them. They may not be legitimate reviews per se. It could be a friend or something. And also the bad ones don't mean a lot either when you see those, because anybody can post a review, and attorneys, we cannot respond to that because it's confidential. The most that we can say is we don't know who this person is. But if it's a client of ours that posts something terrible, we can't respond to it and talk about their case. Let's just say it's a custody case. I paid Robin Sowell $150,000 to fight for my kid, and she didn't do anything. I can't say that. So Google's not your place to go necessarily. It's always fun to find.
And guys, how many times have you lost a listing or a buyer to somebody's cousin? Yeah. If your client says that they have a cousin who's a lawyer, I'm telling you, there's all different kinds of law. If they're a personal injury lawyer, they don't need to be saying anything about real estate. Okay. If they are an attorney who Carrie pointed out, like if they've never been to court, the primary job of someone who's working with clients that are transactional is to keep you out of court, right? So it's important to know if somebody is, I mean, that's the way I see it. Like I try to counsel clients, like I want to keep you out of court. If we get into court, then we've got people who can go, but we're going to try to draft really good agreements and things to keep you out of court, right? Because that's a stressful situation. So if people aren't educated in that type of law, we have an ethical duty that basically says if we're incompetent in that area of law, we shouldn't practice it. We should feel competent in that area of law to practice it. And at the title company, I'm telling you, I get more cousins who practice law than anything else trying to tell me what the law needs to be through real property transactions. So that's always a good thing. If it's just a family member, just make sure they're educated in the type of law that you're looking for. So that's that one.
Ready?
You want to start. They're not in any particular order for real.
All right. Why is it important to hire an attorney?
We probably mostly covered it, but I think that a lot of folks get very easily confused because our state is so different than other states. So they listen to a lot of Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey, and these are good people, but they're giving very generalized advice. And Texas is a very heavy property state. We have very specific things you have to do. And so having someone who knows that and can do it efficiently for you will ultimately save time and money, but you need a lawyer to do it.
Don't draft your own POAs. Okay. Don't go online and find a form. Don't go just to the Secretary of State because you think you can file your LLC without having to pay an attorney. Those are just like you went to the store and you bought the ingredients to bake a cake, but you have no idea what to do with the rest, how to mix them up, how to finish it, how to frost it. We all know how to eat it. I love cake. But it's important not to just rely on, because I mean, same thing. How many people do you guys run into? They're like, well, I mean, I read like stuff about what realtors do, so I can do that. No, you need the skills to it.
All right. The next one is, can a broker share commissions with an attorney?
Y'all should know the answer to this, right? No, yes, no, yes. Okay. In law school, they teach us to answer the questions with "it depends." So those two words cost you a $5,000 retainer at some law firms. I love it. Thank you. And I love your bright colors today. It's looking great. So it depends. I'm an attorney. She's an attorney. She's an attorney. Can you share your commission with us? Yes, if we're the principal in the transaction, right? So there's like a fill in the blank part. If I buy a building, a house or whatever, and I want some of the commission, you can share it with me if you want to. Same thing with them when they're in their personal transactions. The other it depends is if they're a licensed real estate agent. So it's kind of a trick question, but guess what? There's a lot of trick questions on the wheel.
That was my cue. All right. What happens if an improvement on the property, such as a pool or building, encroaches into an easement or over a boundary line?
Okay, they really are random, and sometimes it'll be like, I'll talk for a while, then they'll talk for a while, so. This one is a me question. So I'm the one who has done, I guess, the most real estate involved items, yeah. And I was an oil and gas attorney for several years, so all the questions that come up like this are me. How many of you guys have had this issue? And I know there's one, yep. I know there's at least one in the room. How many of you guys have had a listing where then you found out that, uh-oh, there's an encroachment? Got something going on. Okay, what, right? The title company said, hey guys, there's an encroachment. Bye, have a good day. See you later. Maybe they didn't tell you anything. Maybe they just sent you the survey. Hey, the survey came back. Here you go. Right? That's a possibility. And I'm not really trying to knock on title companies. I'm just like, some people just really don't know. They haven't been educated on what happens when you see this. And most of the title people, it's a problem in our industry, aren't educated on how to read a survey. Is that scary to you? How many of you guys know how to read a survey? Raise your hand. It's okay if you don't. It depends. I love it. It depends. In your title company, if we put as many title company people in the room with us instead of real estate agents, the answer would be about the same percentage. It's just not something that people are trained on unless they are. So it's important to know how to read a survey, because when it comes back, it affects the title commitment. And if there's an encroachment, guess what? Title insurance is going to take exception to anything we feel is too big of a risk that we might lose. That's what we do in title insurance. We have a lot of fun. We throw a lot of parties. We hang out, do things, but truthfully, we issue title insurance. And if it's going to be a risk, like anybody, like if you have high blood pressure and you go to get health insurance, they're like, oh, you got high blood pressure, you're a risk. An encroachment of a pool or a building is a risk. And we're going to say we don't want to cover it. So, okay, we don't want to cover it. Bye. Is that a good enough answer? No, we've got to fix it. So these ladies, we do things very similarly. So when a client comes in and says, hey, my pool is in the easement because I had my cousin, we're going to pick on cousins today. My cousin built the pool for me. They're a pool builder. And they told me that they checked to make sure where the easements are. And now my pool is 4 feet. Like the deep end is literally in an easement. What do I do? Okay, so we have to brainstorm as far as what the options are. One, fill in the pool. Would that fix the problem? Take out the pool, put some dirt back in it. Yeah, just make it the way it was. Get out of the easement. Does that fix the problem? Yeah. Is that a great solution? No. Okay. When we problem solve, don't we throw everything up until we find the right solution? Okay, so that one's okay. We don't want to work on that one. The second one is, can we get an abandonment of the easement? How long has it been there? Maybe we can just get rid of the easement. Maybe they'll release the easement. Let's try that. Okay. Is that likely to happen? Some of the companies allow a consent to encroach agreement. Okay, so they'll say, yeah, it's cool. You're in our easement. You stay in our easement. If there's any damages, then it's going to be the burden of you to fix any damages, but you can stay in the easement. We can insure around a consent to encroach, right? So it's an agreement. Those are really the 3 options. Or you get a buyer who doesn't care, right? Can you get a buyer that doesn't care? Yeah, you can get a buyer that doesn't care. But if the buyer's getting a loan, is the lender going to care? Yeah. And so if the lender cares, we have to come up with one of the solutions. The other thing is, you can use this as a tool to get out of a deal, right? You can say the lender won't allow me to have the pool in the easement, but I've already exhausted all of my other termination options. So I'm going to have them object to the title issue regarding the exception to the pool encroaching or the improvement to encroaching. Here's my letter. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Termination. Give me my earnest money back. Do y'all follow all that? Okay. This is legal advice. So you would never give this to a client directly. You would always have them talk to an attorney. But whenever people see an encroachment into an easement, right? Or over a boundary line, that was the other part of the question. The other issue is you can get a boundary line agreement with the neighboring property, right? Your pool went over into the neighbor's yard because your fence line was wrong. So you can go over to your neighbor and say, hey, can I buy that extra property from you? And we all sign a boundary line agreement and shift the boundary line. And hopefully your neighbor says yes. And hopefully your neighbor has clear title, because we have to run title on that property as well. And if they don't, then we have to clear the title. So it can be a very, very much longer answer, but there are so many different solutions depending on the situation. So I could have just said, it depends. Okay. All right.
Right.
You can.
So going back to the easement, Once you you're granted the ability to keep this structure onto the easement, that's recorded, I'm assuming, in the title, correct? So when I go to resell that property, does that come up? Is that gonna stay? Is that going to be honored for the continuance?
All jokes
Yeah.
aside, it depends on the language of the agreement, the consent to encroach. Like Centerpoint, first of all, it's going to cost about $2,500 to get a consent to encroach from Centerpoint. 30 days. 30 days. There's an expedite fee you can also pay, and I think it's another $1,200. So you can get it expedited. Can you tell I've done this a couple of times, right? Pulls in the easements. I felt like I was dealing with for like 6 months. I kept getting the same issue over and over again. And then in the language of the document, right, you can have it extend to heirs, assignees, additional people down the path, right? Or it could run with the land. So it could continue. But there's also going to be, you're going to need to work with a title company that understands it, right? They understand what you're doing with it and how it's okay to insure. Because honestly, the risk there with the consent to encroach is very little, but it's still a risk. It's just one that the underwriter that I work very closely with was willing to accept. And so we got it through several times, right? And so the buyer has to understand like, hey, when I go to sell it, I need to make sure I'm working with a title company that knows how to work with those issues. And it kind of makes it, there's probably a question on it later, but it kind of makes it difficult because we all love our title companies that we work with, right? And we have our reasons for working with them, but sometimes they might not know how to handle certain situations.
If you find a property, putting it on property and the buyer has to pay for a new survey and you don't get that until after the auction period is expired. If when you see the survey, you understand there's no roof that's in now, is that an objection that you can make, or is that not an objection to survey?
If you just want to put a pool in there and then you find out that it's not big enough based on the survey itself, there is no termination option to get your earnest money back under the contract. Not the truck 1-4 anyway, because that's a personal choice of use of property and the seller doesn't provide any guarantee or warranty for a specific use, right? Yes, I saw you first. Depends. Is it 6 feet? Is it 18 inches? It's going to depend because we actually have a parameter. And actually, if you're working with places like Centerpoint, they also have a parameter as to how much the concrete is extending or even the water line into the easement for the consent to encroach. So if I back up and tell you, hey, the pool's in there 8 feet, they're not going to give a consent to encroach, right? They have limits on how much they'll allow to encroach. If you got a foot of concrete, we're going to put it in there. We accept to that foot of concrete. And so there's going to be a risk as far. Now, sometimes, I'm just telling you sometimes, one of the benefits that I have with the experience I have is being able to sell things to my underwriter. Pick up the phone. I'm like, it's really not a big risk. It's 5 feet times 6 inches. Can I just leave it off? Just leave it off. I don't even want to put it on there as an exception. Right. And if they're on the hook for it, because they're ultimately the one that would pay out on any claim or policy, then I say, okay, we're not even going to accept to it. So it's going to depend on the overall, if there's anything else that we need to worry about. But if it's just a little bit, probably not going to be concerned. Okay. Same thing with the improvements. Okay. So I'm going to do one more question because otherwise we'll be on this for a while. Okay, on the 1-4, under the objections to the survey, it comes back with any type of thing like an encroachment or an easement, not because you can't fit your pool in. And that's just to be very clear, right? Just to be very clear, you can object if there's anything that you didn't know about, like a petroleum pipeline underneath your property that didn't show until we saw an easement or something like that. The key to the track 1 to 4 is making sure your timing is on point. A title commitment or a title company has 20 days to get you a title commitment. You put an option period of 10 days, but then you want a survey in 15. Who's going to pay for the survey if the deal busts? So we don't order surveys until the option period is up, and now we have 5 days to get a survey. But if we don't have a commitment, we can't get a survey. So it's all dependent on who's willing to pay for what when you're negotiating how many days, as far as we look at it. It doesn't take us 20 days to get a commitment. It usually takes us 1 at Majestic, especially if it's in all of our surrounding counties, right? Like our counties. But what it does take is we don't send dirty commitments. So we clean them before we send them. So if we see an AJ or a lien that doesn't look right, we talk to the sellers, we talk to the seller's agent before we send our commitment, right? So it's all about the timing of what's most important to your client. If your client understands that if they bust during the option period, they still have to pay for a survey, that's going to be up to them, right? Okay, so we're going to move on to the next question, just because this one, we could do a whole class on boundary lines and surveys and all. Thanks, Tammy. If it's for me, just do another one.
Why do the tax records show someone else as the owner than the person trying to sell? Is that you?
This is a quick one. The counties are really far behind, okay? So don't rely on the tax records to determine who owns it. Even the information that you're provided on MLS might not be exactly correct. The public records dictate who owns the property. The county scrubs the public records for the deeds, and then they update their records, but they're about 6 to 8 months behind, whether it's Harris, Fort Bend, or surrounding like Montgomery, okay?
What are common legal claims made against real estate agents and how to avoid them?
Yeah, I will state what they are, and these ladies are going to talk about how to avoid them, right? DTPA. Everybody, does everybody know what that is? Let me say it like this. Right? Yeah, okay. DTPA. That's true. You guys just don't know. You don't know. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. You're so good. You're so good. But these ladies are going to talk to you about what happens to those other agents that don't do their education and don't have great leadership like here at KW Memorial when a DTPA claim is made. That's one of them.
DTPA, for those of y'all that don't know it, to not get real in the weeds, it's Deceptive Trade Practices Act. Think of it as fraud. For just an easy way to think of it as fraud. You know, what thing have you done or failed to do that could be considered deceptive or fraudulent under the law? Why it's important to be really careful and be honest and straightforward and disclose the things that you know and have your sellers disclose the things that they know is it's not just what damages it causes. DTPA, you can get treble damages. You hurt somebody $10,000, the damages could be $30,000. You could be ordered to pay attorney's fees and so forth. The biggest place that realtors run into it, and I had some litigation on this, is people not disclosing what they know. If there are things that you know, if you know something, even if it's not on the disclosure sheet, if you know there's something in your gut tells you that a buyer is going to want to know this and this can get my seller sued, disclose it. People fall in love with houses. They just want to be told the truth and know what's out there. Most of the time, in my experience, it's not going to stop a sale from going through. It's just going to stop you from getting sued. Right. So it's important to be honest and disclose all the defects that you know about. And I say you know about them, that the seller knows about them. Real estate agents think that they can get out of it because, hey, it's not their tackle, right? Because you're not the seller, you just represent them. As real estate agents, if you know something, in the case that I had, the realtor knew this house had 6 feet of water in it, or 4 feet. The realtor knew because the realtor lived in the neighborhood, something. The seller was a bank. You guys deal in foreclosures where bank sellers don't have the same disclosures. They foreclose on it. They don't know if the HVAC works or if it's flooded or not. The bank got sued, the real estate agent got sued, and the seller got sued, and they all got in trouble, and they all ended up paying because one way or another, somewhere in the real world, they had actual knowledge of it, even if there was no law that said you're the one with the duty to disclose. Everybody had to put their carriers on notice, and they wrote my buyers a check because they all knew. And how my buyers found out that they all knew is because the neighbors told. The neighbors said, hey, this house looks really good since they had that 6 feet of water in there and they had this and this and the other. Otherwise, who knows when they would have found out. So the big thing is you always be above board. What I like to tell people is pay now or pay later. Later always costs more. Just figure out what the issue is now and deal with it on the front end. It's going to take less time and cost less money.
Right, I have a little to add, because we know that you're not supposed to tell the seller what to put on the disclosure, right? And we know that you're not supposed to fill the disclosure out. We all know that. But if you actively participate in the fraud, you're going to be liable, right? That means that if you ordered the pod to remove the gutting of the hoarder house, the one real estate agent that I've ever sued in my life, right, represented a client. It was a hoarder house. They left animals unattended for 6 months, just for throwing food through the window to the animals. Then the agent suggested that they go gut the house and just remodel it, fresh stain, fresh paint. There were, what are those things? Air freshener, like wallflower things in the house. And over the weekend after closing, they turned the AC off. And then when the buyers went into the house on the week or on the next week, they discovered the overwhelming odor that was left behind. But the agent was the one who ordered the pods, who then set up the demolition for the inside. But it was never disclosed because there's two different sellers disclosures, right? There's a TAR form in Texas real estate, a TREC form. The TAR form has a little bit more information on it, including whether something in the house would contain a material damage to your body, right? Like a hazardous substance. So it's a long case. It was a long case, but the agent was actively involved in the fraud. So just don't do fraud. Okay. That's one thing. Just don't do fraud and you'll be okay. And tell your sellers that you're on 5th date behavior with the seller's disclosure. Anybody know what I mean by that? You know, first date, you're all like, hey, I'm Karen. It's nice to meet you. I like long walks and I have dogs, right? And then by 5th date, you're like, oh, my ex-husband, he did this and he did that. And, you know, right. 5th date behavior, you're going to be okay. We're not going to talk about NAR today. Okay. We're keeping it all light. So we're not going to talk about that potential suit. What about personal injury? Right? If you're driving around a buyer and you are texting your friend or you're texting the other agent in the other house and you get into a car accident. And oh, you did. Can y'all hear? Do you want to share?
Us with the client in the car, I will never drive a client around again, needless to say. Lexus is amazing. It didn't do much damage to the car, did a lot of damage to us. We're still in a lawsuit with my insurance company because the guy was driving a commercial vehicle and didn't have the proper insurance. So my insurance is on the line for my client that was injured in the car. So I will not drive anything around it.
That's never happened in the class. And whose responsibility was it? Okay, she did not get sued, is what the end of the story was. They had insurance in California. Could they have sued you? Could they have sued her?
The real estate agent, when they're showing around, I don't do personal injury, but my guess is no.
You can sue anybody for
Well,
anything.
yeah, you got $300, right? You can sue anybody anytime. But it really might get up.
I deal with some PI stuff and typically that would go to the homeowner's insurance.
Hey, seller's agent, we were at the house and they fell and now your client's getting sued. Okay. So this is why it's important for your homeowners, you guys that are listing agents, to always have their homeowners insurance in place, even during the selling period. Perfect. What's your name? What's your name? Delcy. Y'all, I'd like to introduce you to Delcy. She is the KW Memorial cheerleader. Right? Whatever award she gets at the awards next time needs to be that she is the cheerleader and proponent and advocate for this office and everything that's offered to you. So if you need anything here, you go to Delcy. Okay, she knows everything about what's going on in the brokerage and who you have as resources. Okay, thank you, Delcy. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you guys have these resources. And the big thing is, the reason I said that one is because in the commercial contract, it's very clear as to what happens if somebody is injured while doing any type of due diligence, inspections, looking at properties. The residential contracts do not have that clearly indicated, but the commercial ones do. So if you do a lot of residential, you need to be thinking about personal injury. That's really it. There's not a lot of other stuff that you can legit be worried about getting sued, other than if you are, pretending to be a real estate agent when your license is active. That'll get you in trouble too. Don't do that. All right. All right.
Right, I am preparing a farming letter to solicit listings in a subdivision. What are the rules regarding advertising to a neighborhood in which properties are already listed for sale by another agent?
I just feel like it's the me show and it's not meant to be. So the quick answer is you've got to make sure that when you're doing farming lists, you either opt out the houses that you know are listed, or you have an indicator on the bottom of your advertising that says, if this is already listed, I'm so sorry, right? If you are already represented by an agent, I didn't mean to send it to you. Okay, so any advertising or whatever. So remember that even with door knockers, because maybe that agent listed it yesterday, but hasn't gotten a sign out there, right? So check your advertising for that disclosure.
Okay. What happens if one of the parties dies during the contract period?
That's me. So there's kind of a legal answer and a practical answer. Legally speaking, their estate is on the hook, and an administrator and executor is going to need to come in and carry out the terms of the contract, so long as the decedent actually signed the contract. So oral contracts and things like that with real property, those are no good. But if we've signed something, the estate's liable and someone's going to have to get involved and make that happen. Practically though, a lot of times deals just die. It's a termination, and then, we're moving on to the next thing, because that is not going to work for someone's time frame or something like that. So death can be, and just so you know, it can take a while. Like if you're in Harris County, you got a 60-day solution. If you're in Fort Bend County, you've got a 120-day solution, substantially different. Waller County doesn't even make you show up for court, so it's like 20 days. It's amazing. So, county to county, the solution's different.
I'm the practical. Has anybody had this happen? Yeah. Raise your hands high if you've had this happen. Okay. Have you ever had it happen where the buyer signed on Thursday, or the seller signed on Thursday, and then the buyer was going to sign on Friday, and overnight the seller died? That's happened to me. Happened to you? Yeah, it's happened to me. And I call and I'm like, hey, Carrie, hey, Robin. And it was right when Fort Bend County, when the judges changed. Remember, we had a big old change of judges in in Fort Bend County. We had a bunch of judges, and then we had a bunch of new judges. And so I was able to convince the new judge to run through, and we'll talk about it maybe if it hits the wheel. A minor had inherited from the person who had died, which normally takes a long time. But we found some very specific rules and got it through in 2 weeks, which is almost unheard of.
It shouldn't take a long time.
But it mostly
But
does.
it will in Fort Bend County.
And I'm pretty sure that the judge didn't do the right thing, but I convinced them to do it, and they were new, so they didn't know, and that's how it got done. And sometimes the judges do the right thing or the wrong thing, but if the judge signs off on it, you just go with it. Yeah.
Take it and run.
If you are representing sellers who have advised you that they are going to file for divorce after they sell their home, should you suggest that they consult with a lawyer before closing? And if so, why?
Yeah,
Mhm.
all day, every day. Because, so I guess, so there's the yes, right? And when you tell somebody to consult a lawyer, you're not giving legal advice, right? When you just say, hey, something smells, but ever smells funny to you, or you think there might be an issue, tell them, hey, you should probably go talk to somebody. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of a why. Why is because bad things can happen. So, for example, I had a woman come into my office. She purchased her home before she married. So it was her separate property under our legal definitions. It was the marital residence, both of them lived there. The title company that they went to close that house was told by the spouses that they were getting divorced and they were separated. The title company said, oh, well, do you guys have an agreement on how to split the proceeds? First of all, that wasn't their tackle to give advice on how to split the proceeds. And they look at each other, I don't know. Well, the spouse who the house didn't belong to, they didn't understand community property law. She said, well, I should get half the money. It's my house too. And the title company said, yeah, if you guys don't have an agreement, then that's what we have to do. We have to give each of you a check, half and half. And they gave half of the net sales proceeds to the person that owned it before marriage and half of the net proceeds to the spouse. In the divorce case, in the divorce setting, the spouse may have gotten some money to deal with the fact that they as a couple were paying part of this mortgage, but it wasn't going to be half of the net sales proceeds. Ask me, is it hard to get money back from somebody that it's been given to them wrongly? Super hard, super hard. They spent it, it's gone, they're judgment proof. You've ever heard the expression judgment proof? Those are the kinds of things that happen. And also, it could be a couple that it's their house, they've been married the whole time, it's community property, and you split the proceeds. You don't know how long that divorce is gonna take. Maybe party A drinks a little bit, does a little blow, next thing you know, the money's gone, right? So their half is gone, and you don't know how it went because you didn't see, right? They were doing cash withdrawals, stuff like that. Next thing you know, that person that had control of their half spent it. Then the person that gets the other half has put theirs in a money market. Guess what happens when you go to divorce court? They're splitting the half that this party got. So it's really important to tell divorcing clients to consult with somebody and make arrangements for those sales proceeds that protect the party and protect the money, because all kinds of janky things can happen. And they might be friendly when they walk in to sell this house together. Who knows what's gonna hit the fan later. So always have them talk that through with an attorney, because an easy solution is put the money in a trust account for one of their attorneys. Go ahead and get an attorney. There are ways to avoid that kind of situation.
Yeah, I have a question for y'all. It's not on the spinning wheel for y'all, but, and you don't have to raise your hand unless you want to, okay? How many of you think that the law in Texas says that when you get a divorce, it's 50-50? Okay, how many of you guys think that the community property gets split 50-50 when you die? Okay, so the two attorneys standing here next to me know the answers to both of the questions. So the first question is, I'm married, I'm getting divorced. I'm not really. I couldn't even get the VCR back from my ex-husband, so I'm not going to do that again. It's been a minute. So I'm married, I'm getting divorced. We've owned this property together. Half of it's mine, half of it's his, because that's what the law says.
You won't find anything in the Texas Family Code that says you split it. You won't find anything in the family code that says property gets split 50-50 or any other percentage. It's what we call a just and right division. You look at the totality of the circumstances of the parties, and there's a whole list of things that the court can look at in doing that division. But do we agree a lot that it's 50-50 and people split their stuff in half? Sure, but that's not the law.
So it's what the judge says, right?
Or the parties agree to, and it can vary depending on, so that's if you have clients that say, oh, we're gonna split this money 50-50, it should be fine. You should still talk to an attorney. Let's just say the 50-50 is between a parent that is a parent, a person, a party, a spouse that's disabled. They're disabled and the only income they get is some social security disability benefits, $1,000 a month, but the spouse is an energy trader, right? And makes $500,000 a year. Why would a court give, if they only had $100,000 in the bank, why would they give half to the person that's making $500,000 and give only half to the person who's disabled? Yes, sir.
Is there any, you think at the track level promulgation reform, you come up with something, you know, how in the contract it always says in there, in that 101, consultant attorney. I wonder if there's ever any thought of there, if there's anything you've heard about there. There could be a form, that's what we need, right?
Another form?
That would tell both parties if real estate transaction to sign off if they have been advised by the individual brokers, whether the buyer or the seller broker. They should be consulting the real estate attorney prior to signing the document.
So if you ever see my name on the ballot for that Trek Attorney Advisory Committee, please vote for me. I don't have time right now, okay? There are a lot of things that need to be corrected because we don't read stuff in bold anymore. Nobody reads any of the language in bold. Most of the Trek forms do say consultant attorney over and over again. And so even as your duty to be the agent for your client, you know, you're providing so much information and everything you give them to consult an attorney. But the problem with, and these guys can attest to it, people don't want to pay attorneys up front. And that's why Robin said pay now or pay later. They don't want to pay an attorney to look over a promulgated form. And those attorneys who take on clients to advise on promulgated forms only, not the divorce situation, there's not a lot of need there in most situations. With the form she's talking about, and I know this particular situation because we had a conversation about it. When you go to the closing, right? When I was a baby closer a long time ago, I gave 1 penny more to a husband than I gave to the wife when they were divorcing. Because we did it 50-50, because that's what some old closer told me to do, right? That's how we learn in title mostly. And he sat in my closing room, Indian style, in the corner and cried for 8 hours. And it was very busy that day. We couldn't get him to move. And finally we agreed to it because 50-50, right? Just split it 50-50. On your title company forms, this is why you have to tell your title company when somebody's going through a divorce, because you don't want to get to the closing table and at the closing table make the determination of who's getting the money. The title company needs to say, oh, it's a divorce. Do they have attorneys? And guess what the title companies have access to? Court records. And the court records show who their representing attorney is. So if the title company has any question about who's getting the proceeds, who should they be talking to? The attorney. They should just say, hey, have y'all come to an agreement on the proceeds distribution? Because they're closing during, that's what the question on the wheel says, they're closing during their divorce proceeding. So we want to make sure they've been given advice, because even though I'm an attorney, I don't give legal advice. So when you're asking if there's any direction from Trek as to new forms, Trek's so far behind even on the 1-to-4 contract that it was the last iteration out of 20 where escrow agent actually got to be a defined term. So the answer is probably not anything in the foreseeable future, but you guys want to make sure, not because it costs money or because it's hard to find a real estate attorney. You guys need to, if there's a situation, you just need to ask a question, right? Have you talked to an attorney about this to make sure they're covering what you're able to get? Because most title companies are going to go 50-50. Let's just put it 50-50. It's cool.
I want to go back to Robin's point for a second about unequal shares, because I do a lot of gray divorce, like old people. I do a lot of them, but the divorce rate over 55 is like 70%. It's huge. Yeah, nobody likes each other. Now it's okay to get divorced. So that's what we're doing. It's pretty awesome. I stood in front of Judge Bell one time and he was just looking at me and I'm like, yeah, she's 84. She don't want to do it anymore. I don't know.
She's tired of it.
Yeah, she was tired of it.
After 64 years.
Yeah, but I just had I just did a case where, and I think it's a really good example. So the client was married to her husband for over 60 years. This was her first husband, and it had come out that he had been sexually molesting the grandchild, right? And she's like, I'm out. But here's the deal: she was a homemaker. This woman had not worked. She was 80 years old. She was not going to go to Walmart and sustain herself greeting people. She got a huge chunk of the assets because he had all the money and he did bad things. So it is really important if you've got retired people splitting, they need extra special advice because their monetary situation is going to drastically change for someone usually. That's all.
Thank you. Now it's your turn again.
Yeah.
Because the next part of the question, oops, sorry.
Great.
If somebody's dying or disabled, I'm your girl.
I don't know how to follow that.
Oh my
What do I
God.
do with my
Yeah.
hands? I don't know what to do with my hands. Okay, so there's very specific words, right? And how many of you guys have ever taken a class with me? Because I'm new here too, right? I'm new here. I'm very opinionated, if you haven't picked up on that, because I think my industry can do better, right? And I'm trying, that's my, my utopian goal. I think my industry can do better, and I'm trying to make that happen, right? And so I just think there's a lot of education that we need. Do you guys think your industry can do better? Yeah. And so I think it's, sometimes you put on that charge to say, I'm going to make the change and I want it to be better, because having counseled clients, like they are talking about their clients that they counsel now, I see all the things that can happen to people and I care about people. So when I'm very specific with my word here, it's because there's community property and separate property whenever you're dealing with marriages, divorces, and death. And the 50-50 rule, okay, so community property, Carrie, when somebody dies, is community property split 50-50?
It could be, it's a possibility. If someone has a will, a last will and testament, we're going to follow the terms of their will. Important thing for, I think, realtors to know, a common thing we see is someone dies and then the kids come and they grab one of you and they're like, hey, we want to sell the house. So that's pretty cool. And we have this will. That's also pretty cool because that saves everybody a lot of time and money. But they never think about what that will is. All the will is a request. That request has to be solidified by a court and have a judicial signature at the bottom of an order that says someone can stand in that dead person's shoes before anybody has consent to do anything, which means that those kids can't sign a contract with you. They cannot sign, they can't hire you. They can't sign a contract for sale. Because a lot of times what we see is realtors don't know that. And that's okay because they're not lawyers. They're not supposed to. Y'all know stuff we don't know. But when that happens and we get the title, the dead person can't come sign off on the thing they own. And so now we have to get someone who can do it. And the only way to do that most of the time, the best way to do that and make it insurable is through some sort of administration. So if you have a will, that we're going to follow it, right? If you've got that will's in place, we're going to do it too. If you say 50-50, cool. You don't have to inherit your spouse. You don't even have to inherit your minor children. There is no obligation unless you pay child support for you to do those things. But if you do not have a will, Texas has a will for you. And that will is not awesome if you've had any speed bumps in your grown-up life. The most common thing that I see a lot of is blended families, right? The divorce rate's really high. I said that a minute ago. It's either really high or people aren't married. That's fun. And Texas recognizes common law, also fun. But to answer Karen's question, if you're married and you are a nuclear family and it's mom, dad, biological kids, no weird things, no, everybody's done all the right stuff, right? Everything's going to go to that spouse. But if you have any hiccups, if you have kids from a prior relationship, if you're in the we military, have problems because the law says your real property does not go to your spouse. It goes to those people. So here's a fun fact. So if you're married, husband and wife has child from first husband. Okay. And now we've got wife and new husband. They have a kid. So we've got 2 kids, mom and dad. And then mom dies. Do you know who dad owns the house with? His kid, that's cool. And the other kid, which means he's now working with the ex-husband of his first wife. And you know what needs to have been probated? And the executor or the administrator needs to have qualified, which if there's a will means they have an order of the court and they've filed their oath and done some stuff. And if there's no will, it could be dependent or an independent administration. And in which case, now there's like multiple court orders. It's a 3-order process if it's a dependent administration. And that's pretty time consuming. The process is at minimum 25 days after someone's appointed. And that's assuming your judge doesn't take a vacation or have any other cases on his docket and he's really, really bored and got to your stuff on time.
What was the question? We didn't hear the question.
The question was, what, I guess, did you ask me what the time frame is? Prior to closing.
That's a me question.
Yeah.
That's a me question. I'm good now. Thanks for the stepping over. The question is, some title companies are gonna have certain requirements and other title companies are going to have different requirements. Mostly, if you're still involved in the probate, but an independent executor or a dependent executor has been appointed, or personal representative, not executor, administrator. If somebody's been appointed, right? And the time period has gone on where we've gotten all notices, not all attorneys file their inventories on time. And some title companies require you to have the inventory before they'll close. We don't really have the requirement of the inventory as long as I can go in, look at the court record, my team can go in, look at the court records and see that everything is in order and no contests have been filed. Even if there's a contest that's been filed, we can work around it to get it insured. And Carrie and I just recently got one done. That was the one last week.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that is really weird about Texas is we don't have to file an inventory. We can file something called an affidavit in lieu. And as practitioners, we like those better because we don't want to make a decedent's assets public record because that's going to trigger some not so great things sometimes. Right now we've got an empty house or we know where the assets are. So we try to avoid them kind of at all costs. And so when title companies come running, we're like, yeah, we don't do those.
Yes, and so depending on where you are in the process or what's gone on, then you can get to the closing table, just depending on what an underwriter might accept, or a person knows what to do. And that's what happened with our situation here. She was at another title company and
Not by choice.
they had speakers of the same language that the buyer was speaking. So that was important to the buyer. So they went there. And what ended up happening was that somebody decided that, hey, because this can happen during a probate filing. Somebody's like, no, wait, that's the old will. There's actually a new will. Didn't you see the new will? Here it is. It gives me everything, not her. And you're like, uh-oh, which will is right? Which will is correct? And so the other title company said, not it. We don't want to deal with it because there's a contest which equals possible claim. And I said, hey, bring it on. We'll just put the money somewhere safe if we can't get an agreement. But if we get an agreement that that person can sell the house so they don't lose the buyer, we'll put the money somewhere safe. Usually the safe place is an attorney's account that they've agreed on, not their personal account. There's a special account for attorney funds, or with the registry of the court. Because I don't have the money. Everybody's agreed on who's going to sign the paperwork and they can fight about it later, right? I know I can then give insurable title to the next person. So that's the kind of how it works, how we work together, right? We do work a lot together and we do see a lot of situations. The thing to take away with the 50-50 question is that if you're sitting in the room and you're the second wife or husband, right? And you have property together and you're building a life together and you're building wealth together, because we're all about building wealth here, right? Then you need to know that if you don't have a will in place and you live in Texas, the property's in Texas, and your spouse passes away and they have kids from another marriage, you're gonna be not very happy, right? You're gonna have to deal with it. I have 2 stepdaughters. My husband and I have a will, so I'm protected. But if you're in here and you're not protected, right? You need to go and you need to talk to an attorney and get an estate plan, right? So that's a very important thing for your life, okay? Not your client's life, not your deals, your life. You need to talk to somebody like Carrie, or Carrie specifically, and get her to take care of your stuff. Also, Robin does things, but Robin is here on special appearance only. My friend gets to retire this year. Isn't that exciting for her? But she has a team, right? Awesome. Congratulations. Okay. All right, we've got Dulcie.
Oh, I bet he was pretty.
Dulcie said he won the lottery and tried to annul his marriage so he didn't have to share the lottery proceedings.
He's been married to about 2007 kids, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. Mm-mm. And back to the 50-50 thing, people say that all the time. You've heard that your whole time, right? It's 50-50, 50-50. It just all gets split 50-50. It's not even the rule of thumb. Okay, so don't be fooled by 50-50. All right, thank you.
All right. What if there is a minor who has inherited property?
Yeah, that's me too. So, really bad idea to leave things to minors because they cannot, as minors, they have an incapacity and they cannot contract, they can't own, they can't anything. Minors are chattel, they're property here in Texas. So if you have a minor who has now got an interest in property, maybe because of a blended family, Karen had mentioned a proceeding earlier, which is an application to sell a minor's interest. A court can do that, but then you can't just take the money. Now we have to create a guardianship for the child if there's enough to warrant it, which means you now have a lawyer till the child's 25 who has to account for it every year. So you're paying an attorney if they're 5 for, 15 years or so. So really it's a very good day for an attorney. It is not a good day for a kiddo. So I want to make sure, just as an aside, you also don't put minors on insurance, like life insurance policies, because they can't inherit that either. So we're either always looking to make some sort of contingency trust in your will, which is something you should think about if you've got minor kids, or we're having to go to the court, and court's expensive. Even if you get someone like me who has staff and staff is way less than me, it's still money, and it's way more, like 3, 4, 5, 10 times more than you would have spent doing it right the first time, making sure your stuff was there.
All right. A homeowner has several judgment liens against them. How can we remove them from the homestead property and close?
First of all, are you guys learning stuff? Yeah, you like this format? Is it fun? These ladies are great, aren't they? I love them. Okay, so I actually use Robin's firm to get this done because I don't want to take the liability on the title company. So I've been in title since 2000. I've been an attorney since 2009, and I just love working with real estate agents and clients so much more than working with legal clients. So that's why, just so you guys know. So I come from everything from a legal standpoint to get deals closed. Because if you don't get paid, I don't get paid. So it's very important. You come to me and you're like, oh my gosh, the seller has all these judgments that I didn't know about and they didn't tell me, right? And so we look at them and we're like, well, what kind of judgments are they? And are they the type that the Constitution in Texas says that we can have removed if they're against their homestead? Right? Because there's homestead protections are not just for an exemption on your taxes or reduction on your taxes. They also protect you from certain type of creditors. And so if we look at the AJs and we're like, oh, well, here's the first step we're going to do because it doesn't cost them any money. We get their approval to call the creditor, right? And say, hey, this is on their homestead. Here's the tax certificate that shows that they're currently getting a homestead exemption. Can you give me a partial release? I know you still want your money, but can you just release this property? Because it's their homestead property, right? And if they're like, yeah, cool, I'll go ahead and we'll sign it over and send it to you. Child support lien. I know it sounds awful, right? Because that means some kids not getting their child support, but it's what the law is. The law says it can be removed, right? It sucks. It sucks because she's trying to get people to pay child support liens. I'm trying to get them to sell their houses and not pay the child support liens if that's what's going to get the deal closed. Okay, so don't hate me, right? Credit card liens. They can't put liens against your homestead property. So credit card liens, medical liens, just a whole bunch of stuff that shows up that your sellers never tell you when they have liens, do they? Oh, I just have a mortgage with Chase. The other reason we don't send dirty commitments is because we've gotten child support liens where the wife didn't know that the guy had any children. So we always check with the sellers, right? I mean, it happens. So we ask. If that doesn't work, there's actually a statutory provision that includes an affidavit being sent directly to the creditor and saying, hey, if you don't give me a release within 30 days, I'm going to file this affidavit as a release. right? Against my homestead. So how many days did I just tell you? 30. So really, the proceeding for that is about or not proceeding, the process for that is about 45 days, because the seller should never write their own letter. It's very technical. It's according to statute. And so that's why I get the clients to hire Robin's firm. Actually, the Powell in the Sal Walls and Powell portion is the one that helps with that. And they write the letter, and then we get the judgment removed, and we are able to insure without collecting the payment for that judgment, right? So if somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, what's your name? Because you're looking at me. Arturo. And they're like, Arturo, man, I ran up all these credit cards, right before COVID. And then I lost my job and I didn't pay them. And now I've got judgments, but I want to sell my house. And they're like, the credit cards are like $100,000, right? Could that happen? Yeah, it's a very real situation. And they're like, but I want to sell my house. And I was like, okay, well, guess what? I think I can give you a referral that can help you get those judgments cleared up so you can sell your house. And you're a hero. And then the creditors' attorneys, they don't like that very much, but I don't represent creditors' attorneys or sellers. I just problem solve. So that's the answer to the question. Uh-oh.
What about mechanical lien?
Okay, so mechanical liens have a direct effect against the property, and so they're not removable in this process alone. Mechanical liens are also very technical. And so as in my attorney hat, and I know in your attorney hat, we've gotten them removed, but why?
It could be any number of reasons. Out there in the chain of title, there might be a mechanics and materialman's lien that's filed and it shows up in the title search. But you can get rid of a lot of those. Sometimes they weren't filed on time. Sometimes they weren't allowed to be filed at all. An example, because we're talking about homestead, you enter into a contract with a guy's gonna build a pool, right? Pool company's gonna build a pool, making improvements to the property. The parties don't pay, but it's a homestead and both the husband and wife did not sign the contract. So that lien may not be any good. There are all kinds of T's to cross and I's to dot. So the mechanics and materialman's liens are the ones most likely behind a mortgage to get paid from closing, but they have to be done correctly.
Tax liens, federal judgment liens, like federal tax liens, Department of Justice liens, like your client's done something bad and now they have to pay restitution. IRS tax liens, yeah, those can't be removed. HOA is it's going to be a lien or a judgment, so it's attached to the property. Anything that's specifically because you breached something with the property is not going to be removable, but those other things that are outside of it. If you sign a deed of trust to get your cousin out of jail, right? You're not going to get that removed against your homestead if you properly signed it, a bail bondsman lien. So there are certain categories of liens that can't be removed. But there's a lot of just like cleanup liens that people don't know that they can be removed. And with mechanics lien, like gymnastics, anybody watch gymnastics at all during the Olympics? It's very technical, right? Everything's very, very technical. The mechanics lien filing process is very technical, and the ways that we get out of most of them are on technicalities. You didn't put this in the right date. You didn't list this. You didn't send that. You don't have the proof that it was delivered. You don't have the notice. A lot of technical difficulties. So that's
one of the things you guys can do for good services to your clients is when you hear things like this, they're hanging out there. There's usually all kinds of opportunities to get things done. You want to be the guy or gal that knows a guy or gal, that can get them to some help. There are people, even with these things that you can get them out of, like these credit card liens and stuff. When you're selling a house, it's an opportunity you're getting some money. And you should, if that they have these hiccups, get them in touch with someone, because there are some really good opportunities for your clients to resolve problems. For example, that $100,000 credit card thing, it's going to hang out there. They've sued him. He's got judgments. The judgment's good against him for 10 years. They can start trying to garnish bank accounts. They find out the house is sold. If they can chase the money to a bank account and do a writ of garnishment, maybe that's going to happen. It's an opportunity if they get to the right folks. It says, yeah, we can close this. You can sell, but hey, you've got this money. Now's your chance. Call some of these people, get an attorney to call them and say, hey, there's a change in life circumstance. He might have come into or might be coming into some money, and he'd like to negotiate this debt. He owes $100,000. Next thing you know, he closed on his house. He got $100,000 and he takes 10 of that and settles his $100,000 credit card case, and it's bye-bye. So when you guys, are going to know your clients better than any title companies, anybody, you're going to be hearing their stories. You're going to get their referrals and they're going to remember you, not just from the great deal you helped them get on their house and get that closed, but also when you heard them talk about these problems and you just said, hey, you should probably talk to somebody. I hear that there's probably ways to resolve that. Why don't you look into it? And they will be forever grateful for you just making them suggestions as to how to clean up other messes that they're going to be staring down the road.
Yes, to be clear, okay, the judgment doesn't go away. It only just doesn't affect the homestead property when it's sold. Okay, it just doesn't, it's not enforced against homestead property. That's what the Constitution did. And if you haven't heard my story about the old Western banker and homestead law, check me out next time we're here, okay?
I just wanted to ask if, in both firms you have Hispanic speakers, because it sounds like I have fun.
I do.
You do,
I do.
does your office have Hispanic speakers? Does everybody believe-
My significant, I call my better 20%. He's wonderful. He speaks fluent Spanish and so does his assistant. He doesn't do the kind of law that we do, but if I need somebody to talk to a client and I have to help them, then he or his assistant will translate for me.
Tammy's doing a great job, right?
It's a lot of work pushing this button, you guys. Okay, does my client need an attorney if there is a title insurance claim?
There are 65 questions on this wheel. Do y'all know the answer?
Yeah.
Do they need it? Do they need an attorney if there's a title insurance claim?
It depends.
It depends. That's a great answer. No, that's the purpose of the title insurance, right? If they have a title insurance claim, well, you're right. Actually, it depends. If they have a title insurance claim that's covered by their policy, they paid for the extra coverage. It wasn't an exception. The title insurance policy provides the legal assistance to fight the claim. It's only if the title company, the underwriter says, hey, we're not going to do anything about this claim, and your client thinks that the title insurance underwriter is wrong, you could hire someone to fight the underwriter, but that doesn't typically happen.
Okay.
Again.
Okay. Who gets to pick the title company, buyer or seller?
Tammy gets to pick the title company. Just kidding.
I get to pick them. Yeah.
So, okay. Robin, do you want to say something?
Everything's negotiable in a contract. Everything, right? I guess the seller is the one usually paying for it, so they'll take the position that we want to pick the title company. Or buyer, but you'll get contracts where the buyer's making an offer and they fill in the title company, right? So it's negotiable. That's one of the things I tell my clients when they're selling. Pick this title company and here's why. And I've had people change them. The one that you just closed, Friday before last, not last Friday. We got the contract over and they put in a title company and I called Karen. I said, hey, do you know these folks over at this title company? Because I looked them up and I saw that they were lawyer owned. I tell people you want a lawyer, if you can get a lawyer owned title company because they know how to push some of those pays through. And she said, yep. And when Karen just says, yep, and nothing else, I know how she was raised. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. And so I said, thanks, right? Because that's not how Karen rolls. I don't know the details. I don't know anything about them. I just went, okay, called my client and then called the real estate agent that was picked by the husband. I didn't know him. And I just said, hey, look, I want to change this. Can you make this happen? Sure, no problem. Because people don't want to lose a sale fighting over a title company. But because these people were in the middle of a divorce that's gone on 4 years and they hate each other's guts, I could not risk on behalf of my client that something janky might happen with that first story I told you about, with the money coming out of the closing of this rental property that they have and it ending up in a place that it wasn't supposed to go.
I negotiate it all the time. Work as an administrator and a guardian, and I don't need my life harder. I need my life easier. And I pretty much only want to use Karen. So I just call and I'm like, hey, it's kind of a deal breaker for me. Can you fix it? And 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, they do. They don't care. And I'll tell them, because I'm telling them I'm a lawyer and this has problems and I need a problem solver. And then that's usually enough. But you can negotiate.
I don't think they believe you that I actually only said one word. Like I talk a lot.
She didn't say you only said one word in the call, ma'am.
I know. Did you know, this is a did you know moment. Did you know in the Trek 1 to 4, there's only one place where it gives a party the obligation connected to something that the title company is supposed to do? In Texas, there's no law. In other states, I've done title in several other states. There is there is a, there's a set law. In the paragraph regarding the title commitment delivery, it says that the seller shall deliver a title commitment within blank days. Raise your hand in the room. I will give you $100. I don't have it on me right now. If any of you truthfully have ever had a seller deliver a title commitment to the buyer. That's what your Trek contract says. And within so many days. And what happens if it's not delivered in so many days? The buyer can walk away. That's the only party obligated to anything regarding the title company's performance, right? So that is why if anyone says seller picks because seller pays, right? No. If you're going to give an argument, and what did they teach us in law school to do? Argue for whatever who's paying us to argue for, right? If that's the argument, then that's the only valuable argument. If anyone ever tells you that, first of all, be like, dang, how did you know that? And then tell them to call me, I'll give them $100. And then the other thing is just really that it's dependent on the service that you get, right? The problem solving and those things. But don't ever let anyone tell you that somebody's opened title, because we're not supposed to do that. We've opened title there. If you don't have a contract, you shouldn't be opening title. Now, if they had a deal fall through, do you think they're going to be like, hey, I have a deal that fell through over there at that other title company, so you want to send it over there? Then you're going to wonder why it fell through, right? So there's kind of some things there. That's just my perspective, but it just kind of keep that in mind. And I appreciate you ladies for saying those nice things.
I know.
Answer that one. See,
All these questions. Okay. If you are a buyer's agent representing two buyers who are not married, should you recommend they speak to a lawyer before purchasing a house together, and why?
Do y'all think the answer is? Yes, yes. So people buying a house together, right? There's no mechanism for dividing that property. Let's say in a neighborhood, for example, because you can't split house. The courts can't go in and say, I'm going to award this house to you, or I'm going to award this house to this person. Because I don't want to say something. It can't be partitioned. They can't break it apart. Where when you're married, the court can say, you get this bank account for $100,000 and you get the house. And when people are not married, the mechanism for a house in a neighborhood where the land can't be divided, say different from a ranch, right? The only option that the court has is to order it sold and call it a partition. And then there's all this math that has to be done. It's not 50-50. Maybe one party paid the mortgage the whole time. The other party paid a bunch of repairs, right? They're partners. You have to think of the property transaction as more like a partnership. Sometimes they buy it together. They may do this. If they buy it in one party's name, they come to you and say, we're buying it together. They're shopping together. And you can tell that based on the conversation, they think they both own it. Maybe not. One has better credit. Maybe one has better street smarts and says, oh, let's put it in my name. Next thing you know, when they split up or can't agree on to sell it or keep it, they're down at the courthouse litigating. Does it even belong to the other party? And I litigated a case just like this where a couple bought a house together in the girlfriend's name. They later got married, but he always thought it was their house. And tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees later, ultimately reached settlement. But you have to think of those people, not as a couple, not as a married couple, but as business partners. And what do you need to have when you buy a piece of real estate as business partners? Contract, some sort of contract between them, whether it's a partnership agreement, some sort of joint venture agreement, something that says cohabitation agreement, something that says whose house is it really, and who is supposed to pay what, and who gets credit for what. So when something happens, not if, when something is going to happen, either they're gonna split, one of them's gonna die, they're gonna get married later, they're gonna get married later, and then they're trying to figure out how to divide it, right? One of them's gonna wanna sell it, one of them's not gonna wanna sell it. Something is going to happen, no matter how wonderful they are, or what good partners they are, because one thing's for sure, certain is one of them is gonna die someday. And if there is any kind of issue associated with who this house belongs to and who paid what, it's gonna be a problem for the heirs. So suggest to them that they talk to an attorney who will tell them, hey, you probably need to put a written contract together, even if it's just a few pages. Yes, ma'am?
Would you recommend that for siblings buying a property?
Yes. Same.
Yeah, and
Except
that's
the
where,
married part.
and trust planning can be very beneficial for the same, right? Because you're utilizing a trust or an LLC, kind of depending on the different facts and circumstances, so that you have an operating agreement, you have a trust agreement. That's why I like prenups. They tell us the rules we're gonna live by, right? And so it's very, very helpful in preventing litigation.
Do I have any Golden Girls fans in here? Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope they had a cohabitation agreement, because at one point in one season, they all paid the mortgage together or something. So all those 84-year-old people getting divorced, if they're buying houses together, it's probably a good idea to remember. So if any of you guys are working with that kind of situation too.
And there are things that we learn, we don't know everything. They don't teach us everything in law school. They teach us to know to look for things, right? And how to find them. They don't teach us all the answers. So we come across everyday things that we didn't know. And one of the examples is the two people not being married and living in a house, and let's say it's their homestead, you get what, a homestead exemption? I had it, Brazoria County didn't know this, but when the husband, and it was a husband, so I'm assuming roommate situation or co-owner that's not married, moved out and they dropped their homestead exemption by 50%. Because he moved out, he moved into another house, and he said, well, I want to use my disabled veterans homestead exemption, which is 0. So she ended up owing all these back taxes because she could only homestead half of it, because he took his and put it on another house. I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought a homestead, it was a homestead exemption, the whole thing every time. So that's something that I didn't even know. So that's another problem. You have two people that aren't married and they're both living there and they're claiming a homestead. If they move out, there might be a problem with at least part of the homestead exemption.
It also creates split accounts.
Yes, ma'am. No, you're not giving them legal advice. You're just saying, that's like walking into a house and you smell something funny, hey, I think this house smells funny. Maybe you want to go check into it, right? You can't make them, you don't know what it is. You're not saying, I think it's this, and it's, you're not telling them what it is, where it is. It's just out there in the universe. You're making a referral or making a suggestion, just like you would to anyone else. And when you get into, hey, you need a contract between the two of you that says what, then maybe you're giving legal advice. That's not what you're doing. When you see somebody that's walking, they're getting ready to step out into traffic, right? You're just saying, hey, you should probably check into this, right? You agree, Karen?
But you guys as realtors do have an obligation when you start saying things like, hey, I know you're getting this my little sweet little intern getting married. And she was kind of talking to her aunt, the realtor, and the aunt was like, oh, well, we don't need to put the house in your name. So when you start making decisions or telling them how to make title easier, right? Or solve a problem based on the information they gave you, that can get you in trouble.
Okay, here's my take. Ready for my take? Right? I'm over here. Tammy, I felt like I was missing Tammy, so I came over here. So remember how I said, like, I'm trying to make our industry better, right? When we get to the closing table, we have an opportunity to educate. but most people take it as an opportunity to get your people signed and out the door. When I see single people come in and when my team see this situation, right? We are going through the documents. We see the deed that's going into them. We see how they're vested. Some out-of-state lenders try to force a vesting on people. They say so-and-so and so-and-so as joint tenants with right of survivorship. Okay. You cannot do that through a deed. It has to be a deed and a separate survivorship agreement in order for that to be effective in Texas. So sometimes we get at the title company, if my firm didn't prepare the deed, we get something from the lender and it says, hey, Tammy and I are buying a house together because we have so much fun hanging out. We're going to just buy a house. And on the weekends, if we're mad at our husbands, we'll go hang out together with Chance McCall. And we get to the title company and the deed says Tammy and Karen as joint tenants with right of survivorship. So if something happens to me, Tammy doesn't have to do anything else other than provide a death certificate to the title company and the property is hers. Wrong. Okay, but that is an assumption. So at the title company, when we get two people who are buying and single, single and single, we ask a question. Hey guys, have you talked to an attorney about what happens in case one of you passes or decides to move out or something happens? Have you talked to an attorney? And I'm not passing referrals because I don't really do that at the closing table. I just ask the question, I plant a seed. You can plant a seed without giving legal advice. If you know that you're looking for a house for me and Tammy, you want to buy a house with me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Y'all can come over and party on Sundays. Then it would be a good idea to say, oh, y'all are buying a house together. Have you thought about, talking to an attorney about that, what that might look like for you? And if they go, well, why? Well, when two single people, two married people, whatever, own a house together, there might be legal implications if something happens to one of you. Done. Right? And you have made your industry better. We've made it better by asking the questions and pushing them towards, like a lawyer's counsel. I don't get referral fees from them. I get referrals. We all are a relational business, right? But I like for people to be educated because of everything I have to clean up at the title company. Every situation that comes in because nobody posed a question or if someone misunderstood the law and didn't take the time to find out what it is. Right. So if I see a deed come over with joint tenants with right of survivorship, I call and ask, have you consulted an attorney about the way you're vested on your deed? Right. You should. And that's pretty much easy. So that's just my title / lawyer take on what happens here, because I see stuff come through all the time and people don't understand and don't know, and no one's given them education. And then something happens and they ask you to sell their house and they're stuck and they're having to now pay a bunch of money that it wasn't necessary and is now necessary. Y'all follow? I'm just trying to educate.
Okay, the agent for the other party is doing something unethical or doing some unethical, shady stuff. What should I do?
Roger, this question was actually for you, friend.
Sometimes we always have to do the right thing, right? So presenting a client, we have to always guide them and then advise them to always do the right thing. It depends actually on what kind of things they are doing, right? Right. That's it. It's case by case, right?
Case by case, it
And
depends.
we are all trained and coached just to do the right thing with our clients, so. Every day is a new challenge in real estate, and as a realtor, we always have to be ready for new challenges. It depends, right? You know, how severe is the thing, right? I want to make sure that's why they hire you. They hire you to guide them. And clients has no limits, but they have to always overdo things. So we have to stop them and do the right thing always.
Do you tattle? Tattle. Mhm. Yeah, because, yeah.
If you turn the other cheek, you're just leaving all the other people out there to be further victims. We joked about it in law school, and I don't know if this was Carrie's mantra, but I walked away with law school with three things. Don't take the money, rat on your friends, and do what Jesus would do, right? in my ethics class for law school. That was the professor's joke. He said, when in doubt, write on your friends. Don't take the money and do what Jesus would do. Because at the end of the day, all you have is your reputation. And when you turn a blind eye to what other professionals like you are doing, it's the same as condoning it. I use
What
that
are the
extreme example.
different business structures available for a real estate agent and how do I choose?
So many, all of them. So there are all kinds of, you hear about Incs, Corps, LLCs, PLLCs, that sort of thing. People set up businesses. The biggest reason is to avoid personal liabilities that you're doing as part of your business. If you start a business and your business, Robin L. Sowell, right? Inc., Robin L. Sowell, LLC, PLLC, that business enters into contracts. That business takes out insurance. It's its own thing. It's not you. And when you set up those businesses, it helps insulate you individually from the liabilities of your business. If you think that, I think a lot of agents get into things like house flipping, stuff like that. If you're just a real estate agent and you're operating, buyers and sellers, that sort of thing, you have E&O, you have coverage, you're gonna have enough coverage probably for anything that you might, mess up. Just don't ever do anything intentional or fraudulent because your insurance policy is gonna have a nope, not covering that kind of situation. So just regular transactions, that sort of thing, probably don't need one because your insurance coverage is gonna cover you. But why not? Why not have that extra layer of coverage? Say you set up a limited liability company. There are different companies that you set up for different reasons. That's for a different day and a longer conversation, but there are tax differences associated with the different entities you set up. If you're getting into business with a partner, it's really important that you set up a business structure, a business entity, if you're going to be doing business with somebody else, because you want a contract that talks about who gets what, when, how, and why. And you don't want to be stuck in a situation where you're considered to be what we call general partners. If you're referring to somebody that you do business with as my partner this, my partner that, next thing you know, you're on the hook for the things that he or she does. He or she is on the hook for the things that you do. So that's a couple of reasons why. How you choose the entity has to do with what exactly it is you're doing, what you're trying to protect from. Are you bringing somebody else into the business? So you want to come and consult with somebody, go through the structure between your lawyer and your tax planner as to what would be best for you.
Yeah, if your CPA offers to set your entity up for you, run. They need to stay in their lane and we stay in our lane, right? And lots of CPAs do it. I'm just, thank goodness, getting out of some litigation right now for a friend of mine. CPA set up the business and it's not correct. And they don't know how to explain it to you or tell you how to protect yourself. You're not automatically protected by a business formation. You have to do it right. And you have to make sure you did it with intention. Yeah, there's stuff you have to do. There's annual things you have to do sometimes to keep that protection. So it's not just free, but that is a pet peeve of mine. If your CPA offers, you have a terrible CPA, find a new one, run.
They should be working in conjunction with a lawyer to do the tax part, and the lawyer should be doing the business part. Yes.
Unless they're both. It's okay if they are both. Then they're qualified.
If you currently have a company structure and you want your commissions paid to that structure or that company, you need to register that with TREC. They had a rule change recently. It used to be where you had to be licensed in that name to get your commissions in that name. Now you just have to register that name with them to show that you're listed on there for your LLC or whatever. That's the correct way to do it, right? So if you are operating in a business entity, your CDA, your DA, you guys call it a DA, your DA needs to match, as well as you need to have registered that with TREC. That's new. So if you didn't know.
I have a question without going to your questions.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm a real estate agent and I'm going to open my own branch away from Keller Williams Memorial. I'm part of it, but it's my own team. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to buy this building. And I want to work with you as a title company and only you. You're going to be my exclusive title company if you will pay $2,000 a month towards my rent. Can you do that? Well, why not?
Man, I wish I could. But I can't because mama told me no. So that's a violation of not only the rules that, Texas Department of Insurance covers everything I do at Majestic Title, right? We get audited numerous times. I hired a new assistant. She's like, why are we getting audited? And I'm like, we get audited all the time. I didn't realize she's an administrative assistant. She had no idea. She was like, did I really make the right choice? I'm getting audited all the time. They check on everything we do. But I told you earlier, I've been in the title business since 2000, right? Does anybody know there's a little thing called RESPA? RESPA. RESPA. Have you guys heard of RESPA? Right? Does anybody know when RESPA was actually written? Before 2000. Okay. However, back in 2000, we did whatever we wanted to do as title companies. We paid for whatever we wanted to pay for. We took agents on trips for free. Yeah, I know. It was so much easier. It was so much easier. And we paid for everything, right? And what ended up happening is it resulted in horrible title insurance companies and horrible claims and horrible service. And so TREC, TDI, RESPA, and then we got TRID, we got all this alphabet soup going on, came in and started enforcing against, what's that word? Do you remember the word? Do y'all remember the word? What word am I looking for? What can't we have?
Bribery?
Bribery? I don't know. It's like I heard it.
Kickbacks?
Kickbacks.
Oh.
Yeah. So they came down and they said there's actually an express list on Texas Department of Insurance of things that title companies aren't supposed to do. Express meaning it's written that we're not allowed to do. And then certain things that we can kind of play in the gray. I'm wearing black and white today, but I always find a way, if I can play in the gray and it's legal, I will do it. Okay. But if it's illegal, I don't do it. Because if it's illegal, that means I'm going to have to hire Robin and probably Carrie too. And then you're going to have to find somebody to hire, and we're going to have to defend ourselves over what, $2,000 a month? Was that it? Yeah.
That's all.
So instead, we just don't do that, right? We do sometimes enter into ABAs. You guys have heard of ABAs, right? And those are very regulated as well. But those disclose that a person has an ownership in a title company, right? Or like if the builder has a title company of their own, it's disclosed. But nobody's going to write down, yeah, they give me $500 under the table every time I send them a transaction. Under the table, which when I first started here in Houston, somebody approached me and said, if I give you 500, or if you give me $500 every time I close a transaction with you, I'll send you all my business. And what Robin said, don't take the money, rat out your friends. He wasn't even my friend. I didn't even buy him coffee. I was like, you're paying for coffee now, you weirdo. But he thought I was new and I wouldn't know the rules. So I would love to support your brokerage.
Okay, so you're saying no.
I can't pay the rent.
Okay.
But I have, if you want to call a friend, you can. But I'll support you in every other possible
Okay,
way.
thank you. You want that one?
Do y'all want to hear about FERPTA, or you want to go on to Robin and Carrie? You're not going to hurt my feelings. Anyone need to hear about FERPTA today?
No.
Y'all know what FERPTA is, right? Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the next
Okay.
question.
I know we're running out of time, so I want to make sure we cover ones you guys want. That's a good one, right?
That's a good one. It's still for me.
Oh, you guys want her to answer this one?
Undocumented. Do you guys want to know about undocumented? Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
Cover that one.
An undocumented person can buy a home in the state of Texas. Okay, doesn't matter what country they're from. There's no laws in place preventing them from buying a home. They have cash, they can buy a home. Okay. The problem becomes with the previous question is when they go to sell the home, what happens? There are some implications. And if you have undocumented buyers, you need to make sure they're aware of what happens when they sell, right? Give them a FERPTA pamphlet and say, here you go when you sell. There are also, and I think one of the lenders, two, right? Who's your two? Yeah. So she can also speak to you about I-10 loans, right? So how to get somebody a loan, even though they may be completely undocumented or halfway undocumented. There are even loans out there, but you have to go through a certain process. So the answer is yes. Do you guys know that? Did you know that? You did know that? Some know. I see some knows, so that's good. Okay, yeah, they can buy homes. We don't carry title insurance.
Just real quick, any of you guys that, yeah, serve non-native speakers here, people that are undocumented or even that they are documented. I've had a number of cases come through my firm where people take advantage of people that do not speak the language, or they're worried that what'll happen if they have to move back to their country or they're deported or something like that. And they do some things that really hurt professional people that are supposed to be professional do things that are not right and professional, but they just are they have this false narrative, false information that bad things are going to happen to their property if they have to leave the country or something like that. And they make poor decisions, and there are consequences that we may not even be able to fix. So when you have folks that you're dealing with like that, if they're talking about, oh, I'm going to put property in my sister's name, or, oh, I'm going to transfer my property to my niece. I literally got this call this week. And then next thing you know, they transfer the property because they were under some false sense that they were going to lose it if they got deported. Next thing you know, the person that they thought they could trust transferring property to says, nope, not your house, it's mine, when they come back. So those people are just ripe for being mistreated and misinformed. So just pay attention and just give them that little, hey, you should probably talk to somebody before you start doing this.
Also, if you have undocumented or just certain levels of approved immigrants, there are issues when you die. There are limits at $60,000, and your house is usually more than that. And so if you have those folks who are going to inherit a non-native person, they need the advice of an estate planning attorney who can be familiar with the treaties that are in place between the countries. We don't always have reciprocity there, but also they may need a very specialized type of trust that is designed to get them out of the $60,000 inheritance limit. And house buying is a big pickle for those.
All right. Is a person in a pending divorce able to purchase real property? If so, to whom does the property belong?
Yes. Yep. You can both of you can purchase, one of you can purchase it. The second part of the question is, if so, whom does the property belong? It depends. It depends on who's purchasing it. Oh, sorry. How's this better? So the second part of the question, who does the property belong to? Yes, people can purchase things during a divorce. Who it belongs to depends on where the money came. The biggest part is where the money came from for the purchase. Did the money come from their money? I always talk about y'all's money versus your money. If it came from y'all's money, is going to be a community asset. If it came from the separate money of one of the parties, and by separate, I mean money that they had before marriage, money that was gifted to them, money that they inherited and they kept segregated, it would be their separate property. But they go through the divorce process, and then the court has a court order that says ultimately who the property is going to belong to. If it's community property bought with community money, the court will say, okay, this party gets it or that party gets it. If it was bought with what you say is your separate money and the court believes you and you can show it, they're going to award that property, or confirm it, not award it, confirm it as your separate property.
And you can get a loan without your spouse when you buy it. Okay, so there are lenders that provide loans, and there are title insurance companies that insure those because of specific case law foreclosure laws. Okay, so if you find yourself in that situation, you got a client who needs to get away from their spouse and they need a place to live. Okay.
Yeah,
We talked about that.
Okay.
What time is it?
It is about 3 minutes too.
It's about time to wrap up. We did kind of a lightning round. So hopefully you guys learned some things today, right? Yeah, so very, very good. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you guys for having us.
I forgot to tell them something.
Tammy would like to tell you something.
So I put these on your table and I forgot to say what they were about. So it says vote. If you scan these QR codes and go down to the home submission part, Jordan Ranch is up for the best of the best with the Houston Chronicle. And I'm very competitive and I want to win. And you can vote once a day, every day per email. So you guys vote, 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 please. That's all. Yeah. Yes, please.
If you guys want, I know you do want it, so we're gonna get it. Get your pens out and your papers, your phones out or whatever. I want to give you the contact information for Carrie and for Robin. So you guys turn your mics on and provide what or who you want, because remember, my dear friend Robin is retiring this year. And it does take a lot as an attorney with a large practice that Robin has created to get retired, but she has taught and trained her attorneys that work with her to do business the way she does. And that is a very unique thing. So
You want to reach me by email? It's R.
Sorry, I quit my, singing performing career a long time ago. It's R Sowell, RSOWELL at KTXlaw.com. And there's a website, www.ktxlaw.com. I'll be the managing attorney, until they kick me out, but it's the everyday practice. I'm retiring, so I'm going only into administrative. So you'll get to call me and complain about the other lawyers, but ultimately, the goal is for my partners to be handling things going forward. 832-437-0973. And then just so you guys know, I get a lot of calls from people, from folks like you guys. I take those phone calls, even if I can't help them, I direct them to a place they go. People say, how much do you charge for a consult? I don't charge for that. If I can't help them, I'll steer them in a direction, steer them in the right direction.
So mine is the Graham Law Group. Graham is like the cracker, Graham. And I'm not going to give you my email because I don't ever read it. So I'm going to give you the email of my staff who reads it, which is admin, ADMIN, at westhoustonlaw.com. That's also my website. And the phone number is 281-972-7192.
and one thing I'll tell you about work. Oh,
Sure. 281-972-7192. Yeah, the email is A like Adam, D like Dimple, I like Igloo, N like Nancy, like administrator. It's admin at westhoustonlaw.com.
if you find yourself with a seller who has a situation and they can't pay for the attorney up front, don't despair. In special situations, we have collected the legal fees out of the proceeds at closing. Okay.
If they close with Karen, I won't trust. I know the title companies. There's a lot of them I won't do that with, but I will close with Karen and take my fee out of, for people who just have a property, they just can't afford it. And we've done that very successfully in the past.
Yeah, we have. So it's not like a free for all. Okay. But it is if you find yourself and you've got somebody, because that's one thing that these ladies are phenomenal about, and that's helping people. So they run an excellent law firm, legal practice both of them. They both run amazing law firms. Okay. So if you need anything, they're very helpful. So that's it.
Awesome class. We enjoyed seeing you here, and we enjoyed our guest, actually, Tammy. I hope you enjoy your trip. Karen, it was always awesome, and our awesome attorneys. Thank you so much. So who is not part of Keller Williams Memorial? Karine? Who else? Two? So I would love to extend you an invitation just to walk our new office. I would like to give you a tour myself and then answer any question y'all have. Okay, thank you to everyone to attend. Let's have a great day and make money in real estate.